Alabama beat Georgia in a big-time matchup in a game that really had no business being as close as it was. Crimson Tide failed to put their foot on the jugular of the Bulldogs, and it almost came back to bite them. And yet it didn't. And if you remember back to the last show we did before the game, I told you the 3 stats that were going to decide that game. And 2 of them really kind of came to a head. Turnovers. When you look at the stats, Georgia threw 3 interceptions, lost a fumble. It was not great in the turnover category. And to Alabama's credit, they turned the football over too. But they turned it over less than Georgia did. And the one key area that I had talked about was points off of turnovers, where Georgia hadn't allowed a touchdown this season. And for Alabama to capitalize on those points after turnovers was going to be a big deal. And they didn't get a bunch of point after turnovers, but they got a touchdown after a turnover. And in a 1-score game, ultimately, it's what it comes down to. Now, I think Kalen DeBoer, despite coming away with the win, still has a lot of questions to answer, because in a game where Georgia did everything they could to beat themselves, they were still in the game. When you were up big, and there's just got to be a point, even against very, very, very good teams. And make no mistake about it, Georgia is still a very, very, very good team. You got to be able to put them away to the point where they don't have the even thought process of like, you know what, we're coming back. You got to put your foot on the gas pedal and end the game as soon as you can, and not, even if you do get your foot on the gas pedal, not let up. And I think letting Georgia back in the game, I know that it's almost like sacrilegious to have that idea of like, hey, we still need to talk about what happened. We still need to talk about why the fact this was even a game, because it shouldn't have been. It was. And I need answers. And so I look forward to hearing those answers, because it's easy to say on a Saturday night, here's what happened. When you've had time to digest that film and go, all right, this is really kind of where things went wrong. I want to know those answers. And for Georgia, Kirby Smart's 1-6 against Alabama, which is not good. But you know what? It's better than a lot of other people. It's better than a lot of other programs that have touted themselves as the top of the college football mountaintop. But at the same time, I don't know that they have the questions that Alabama does, which is weird. Alabama won the game. And I don't think Georgia has questions. Georgia knows what happened. We gave away a football game. We turned the ball over entirely too often. We beat ourselves as much as Alabama beat us. There aren't questions there. There isn't a like, well, how do we make sure this doesn't happen again? We can't throw the football to the other team. And Carson Beck tried his damnedest to throw the football to the other team over and over and over again. And it was quick. He's supposed to be a top 10 quarterback. He's supposed to be a top 10 player in the NFL draft. You have a bad night every once in a while. You know what? He dragged their ass back into the game. So they don't have the questions that Alabama does. Alabama has questions, which is weird. After a win at home, when you were the underdog for the first time since George W. Bush was president, you're an underdog. You win the game, and I think they've got more questions than Georgia does. Georgia's just got to like, hey, we can't turn the football over. That's the one thing you really kind of got to rectify. But I want to hear those answers from Alabama, because I'm really interested in the thought process from Kalen DeBoer. Little short show today. The voice, not great. I do want to give the Sunday Stiff Arm Trophy update. I would still, my Heisman Trophy ballot, if I had one, I don't. If you have a way to get me the Heisman Trophy ballot, hey, I'd take it. I would still vote for Ashton Jeanty, the running back from Boise State, as my Heisman Trophy winner. He had another very nice night. 26 carries, 259 yards, 4 touchdowns as the Broncos gave Washington State their first loss. Ashton Jeanty, through the month of September, has been the best player in college football. And I have no issues, qualms, whatever, saying that and using my quasi Heisman Trophy vote. 82 carries, 845 yards, 13 touchdowns, averaging 10 yards per carry, 13 touchdowns. I think had 13 touchdowns all of last season. 14 touchdowns last season, 1,300 yards. Has 845 yards and 13 touchdowns right now with a lot of football left to play for the Broncos. So Ashton Jeanty would get my Heisman Trophy vote. Jalen Milroe would be second. What he did, not only on Saturday, but what he has done through the college football season. He's 27 of 33 for 374, 2 touchdowns on Saturday, and went over the number 2 team in the country. Also rushed for 117 yards and 2 touchdowns. I was incredibly harsh to Jalen Milroe last year, especially early in the season, to where I talked about Alabama's offense was not even a high school offense with Jalen Milroe at quarterback. It was, we're going to snap it to him. He can run the football, or he can throw it as far as he can in hopes that a wide receiver goes and gets it. And that was true. The improvements that he has made have been remarkable. And I think, in my opinion, he's been the second best player in college football. And then Travis Hunter, wide receiver, defensive back. He's the best defensive back in America. I don't know that it's super close. I don't think he is as great in the offensive side of the football as, like, he's still very good. But there are people who want to call him the best wide receiver in America, and I don't think he fits that bill. He's still, very good, and I don't think that's taken a whole lot away from him. But I'm going to have a hard time, and whether this is fair or not, I'm going to have a hard time voting for somebody to win the Heisman Trophy on a team that I don't know is going to do a whole lot from here on out. They're 4-1, and they've got a lot to be proud of, a lot to be excited about. And I think he's going to remain on those lists. But the idea that, like, you have to vote for him because he plays offense and defense. You know what? Like, there are a lot of players who could do that. Their coaches don't let them do that. And I think it's a benefit that Travis Hunter plays for Deion Sanders, that Deion Sanders lets him do that. If Travis Hunter went to a lot of other colleges, is he playing both ways? Probably not. Now, I get the idea is he's so dominant, he's so good, he's so productive at both sides of the ball that he has to play both ways, because you can't afford to keep him out of the lineup. I think and believe me, I am pro let guys play both ways. I am pro, hey, if you are good enough, do it. And I think more programs should adopt the idea that Colorado is doing. But if he played at a lot of other schools, he would be viewed as a first-round pick, top 10 pick, because of his defensive prowess. But he's getting opportunities that other kids aren't ever going to even get to sniff. And whether that should be held against him or not is a different discussion for a different day. I'll just tell you, I've got him at number 3 on my Heisman Trophy ballot that does not exist. That'll do it for today's episode of the Daily Huddle. I appreciate you making us a part of your day. However it is, wherever it is you're doing so. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you're getting all the great college football content we are pumping out. If you are listening on the podcast feed, drop a 5-star review. It goes a long way in helping out the channel. I'll see you tomorrow for another episode of the Daily Huddle.